Before the onset of the pandemic, I had no idea what was coming for our company. We lost over 2 million in planned orders in the first 6 months. We had to furlough over 75% of our staff. We got hit by a significant amount of fraud, and we had to do this while selling at lower margins. But as you'll see in this video, we were actually able to turn this misfortune around and come out ahead. After the first 6 months of 2020, we're up 20% in sales. We had our best month in our 41-year history. We hired everybody back and even additional staff. And our charitable giving is up over $50,000 in 6 months. In this program, we're going to show you how we did it, how we quickly adapted and were able to thrive during this period. Hopefully it'll provide you with some tips how to create your own destiny during times of uncertainty. And at the end of the video, we'll be available for questions and answers.
And now, on with the show.
Hi, Chris Aranaga. I'm the CEO here at Guerrilla Marketing, a promotional product company. What are promotional products? Things like keychains and t-shirts. We focus on selling products to corporate America and large organizations. When the pandemic hit and COVID-19 was affecting our business, the business I started out of my dorm room 41 years ago was threatened.
The coronavirus is now in every state. Stocks plunging once again, trading halted.
Face mask.
The sharpest ever rise in unemployment.
Businesses across the country shut down
as the country has, in effect, closed for business.
With the precipitous drop in business, we had to act fast. We had to alter the way we were doing business in order to survive this. Failure was not an option. First thing we did as a leadership team was assess our strengths and how we were going to react to this change in the business environment. I liken what we did here to a term in basketball called the pivot, keeping one foot firmly on the ground while you essentially probe in different directions for your options. The key thing is you're on offense. You have the ball. You have choices to make. You can pass, you can shoot, you can dribble. Basically, you can see your opportunities because you've got one foot planted in what you know well and you're probing with the other foot. That became somewhat of a theme for us over this past 12 weeks. It continues to be. It's driven everything we've done. So we've created this video for business leaders like yourselves to assess your own personal strengths and opportunities, and hopefully to keep in mind that at any point in your game, you have the opportunity to pivot. Keep one foot planted in what you know while you probe for the opportunities that are out there. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. Come along with me.
So when this first started out, we were hearing some cancellations for some of our big orders that we typically support with some of our clients.
Most of the big ones were with one of our very large multinational corporations, one of our clients that operates in most of the countries of the world. And they had decided to put a halt to several big events in the United States that also meant the promotional products that go along with those big events would also be canceled.
And when that took place, it was a little concerning for our leadership team, so we started gathering and projecting, how we can weather the storm with these significant orders not happening anymore. That was coupled with me coming back from that Vistage meeting toward the end of February, and my group there, the tone of the meeting before walking in was very uncertain with what was going on. It was much more serious after hearing other business leaders and what they were already experiencing.
What's Vistage, by the way?
So Vistage is a CEO group where CEOs of companies come together and kind of go over certain topics that might be relevant for businesses, and there's a speaker that comes in once a month. We learn different things that could help us in supporting our businesses. Literally the next day, which was a Friday, we had already put into motion our full remote plan for everybody who was able to go remote.
And you had to furlough a lot of people at that time, right?
Yeah, at that time we hadn't yet furloughed anybody on that Friday. Over the weekend was when our leadership team had to discuss the next steps, which was how we were going to furlough and who we were going to furlough. And then the next week we kind of did it in stages, and by the end of that week, that next Friday, about 75% of our staff was furloughed. So Carlene is our lead in HR, so she was the one who was giving us all the parameters of what we should do and how we should do it when it came to the furloughing.
Just watching the flow, the dollars, the business, the work declining, we knew that furloughs were next, and then it was deciding as a leadership team, where do we cut? Who do we cut first? How do we do this? And again, I don't want to say non-essential positions, but positions that we weren't going to be able to utilize at full capacity.
And that was probably the hardest week for our leadership team that I've experienced.
It was also a really tough time for our sales team. They had been used to working with sales support. They had a whole team of people behind them that they'd just seen get furloughed. And now they had to adjust not only to selling without that team, but also to selling a different set of products in a time when there was a lot of stress.
As things were kind of evolving, business was changing, nothing was the same. So we thought it was really important to keep our furloughed staff kind of in the loop. So we set up a weekly Zoom meeting, and we did that for several weeks before we were able to bring people back and keep them connected.
Everybody here is part of one big family. So the overriding thing for us was getting that family back together again. That drove us through this entire process.
During this time, our leadership team realized we were going to need to step into a lot of different roles. We went from having 35 plus people to having really only 5 or 6 of us to be able to take care of all the essential roles.
Their positions are obviously vital for what we're doing, and without them there, we needed to have our leadership team pick up those pieces.
We knew we'd be working harder. We had no idea how hard it was about to be for us. The exchange that we got was to take a 25% cut in pay, but work about 50% longer hours. We were now working evenings on the weekends, and what seemed like 24/7. It just wouldn't stop in the early days.
And this was tough on spouses too. There was a lot of uncertainty, and I think Chris felt a lot of pressure to try to keep the business going and also to make sure that he was keeping his employees employed and working. The most important thing, I think he really wanted to make sure he was being a leader and a sense of support for his team.
And I think what was key and pivotal for our team was we weren't afraid to try something new, and we weren't in judgment of one another. When we had an idea that we thought was interesting, we would explore it, and we would give constructive feedback, and we would take action. We would try it out. We didn't let uncertainty hold us back.
We again had to think, what are we going to be able to market and sell to right this ship? And we had the logistical supply chain to bring a lot of products in from China. And we had no experience with things like masks or infrared thermometers and the like. But we started to get a lot of outreach from our suppliers overseas about offering what has become known as PPE. And ultimately, the big demand that came early on was face masks. And those face masks were 3-ply surgical hospital type of face mask that were now being recommended to be worn by first responders in the medical community, etc. And ultimately that would roll out to the general public as well. The masks made sense for us because we have a couple big hospital chain clients. I knew we were never going to be the primary source for masks, but I knew we could help out because we had people overseas that could bring these in.
Our suppliers didn't yet have the supply of them.
Respirator face masks has sparked a global race to fulfill those orders.
Ramp up manufacturing face masks.
So it was hard to find PPEs at all, but Chris found a way.
Now remember, when this happened, we, as a nation, restricted passenger flight to and from China. So that knocked out a large bit of capacity that would normally carry cargo out of China to the United States. I think a lot of people don't realize that in the holds of passenger planes is a lot of air cargo. So that took out a big chunk of capacity. So I was able to discover a group of brokers that would soon become my best friends as far as supply chain goes. Yet they had to make a pivot too, and I'm now speaking about the brokers that were bringing things in like face masks from China and had figured out how to do it. They'd figured out how to do it without getting things stuck in customs, without getting them rerouted. And while I paid more for that product, I had security in knowing that I was only paying for what I was picking up, actually physically was able to have in my possession. So that was a better process than wiring money to my China suppliers and hoping the products would make it here in time or make it here at all. So in the initial going, let's just say you didn't do things by purchase orders necessarily or checks. You did them with cash. Essentially the same drill every day was getting in one of the vans that we have here at Guerrilla Marketing, bringing my Louisville Slugger baseball bat that I would normally keep under my bed. So every day it would be set up my buys, go to the bank, sometimes get as much as $65,000 out in cash, get back in that empty van and drive to somewhat seedier parts of LA, to be quite honest. Older warehouses, certainly not a place that we would normally conduct business. And I was driving into the unknown, certainly in the early going.
Chris really led the way with showing the humility that it was going to take to make it all happen. From being the driver and being out there on the road and exposing himself to potential harm out there, it spread to our entire team that no job or no duty was above any of us, that we had to do whatever was necessary, and we were all willing to do that. And I think that willingness was really key in us being creative and figuring out new ways to approach business.
And now I was able to send a driver. Fortunately, most of the time it would be Josh, one of my neighbors. He became indispensable because it allowed me to continue to focus on work things.
One of the biggest changes with what was going on is, in our typical promo world, we are on a 3 to 5 business day turnaround for the most part. Sometimes weeks we have to fulfill orders, but this was a same day ship out type of mentality. We would get product in during the day, in the middle of the day, and we would ship that same product out before the end of the day, before our FedEx cutoff times.
So it was pretty crazy because I come to work one day and it's like, oh my gosh, my warehouse has been transformed into nothing but pallets and pallets of masks. And we always had, as we called it, the fire drill come 2 o'clock because that's when our driver would get back from picking up masks, and we turned around and shipped out orders the same day and just had it crazy, but so thankful to be able to come back to a job.
So that was a frantic pace that we had to keep up with, which was very different from what we were used to, but it was necessary because we had to execute on getting these orders fulfilled and these masks really into the hands of the people that really needed them. It was really the nature of the crisis and the pandemic of how urgent the needs were was pushing that pace for us. We were moving at the pace of how fast everything was evolving, which was very rapidly.
That process played out for weeks, but the demand was soaring. It was just insatiable almost for the disposable masks. We had more supply at less of a cost than I think most of our competitors did, and that fueled a lot of our sales early on. Companies were coming out of the woodwork to buy disposable masks from us. And even though the disposable market was red hot, you could see that the disposable mask was going to be unsustainable for most businesses. And the cloth masks phenomena was about to take off. It became apparent to these companies that that's where they needed to be. The pivot we made was to embrace cloth masks for the essential businesses, first responders, and ultimately what has become the bigger buyer of the cloth mask, the general public. We saw that need early on. Remember, people weren't making masks in any appreciable way, cloth masks. We relied on one of our cut and sew manufacturers south of the border in Mexico that was making t-shirts for a lot of the big box retailers in the United States. And they were converting their lines rapidly to make masks at that point. And we were able to secure a early supply before most of our competitors. And that proved to be a very important move for the kind of evolution of guerrilla marketing. And orders were coming in almost too fast. In fact, they were coming too fast. And we had a supply chain in Mexico that had promised shipment and ultimately had not delivered. So again, I did something that in normal times I would never do. And in fact, I hadn't done in maybe 10 years. The border between us and Mexico is about an hour and 45-minute drive without traffic. So I decided to drive down to this factory in Mexico and requested a meeting with the owners. What I didn't know was that the day before, the president was going to curtail immigration particularly from Mexico to the U.S.
I also want to announce today that the United States and Mexico have agreed to restrict non-essential travel across our shared border.
But I needed to go. My rep there was kind enough to broker. She was going to drive us from one side of the border to the other. And when I say us, once again, Josh came through. For me, it was a great thing that he decided he wanted to go because quite frankly, I was scared. And basically what we knew was that the factory was about 20-25 minutes from the border. What we didn't know, which was like entering a movie or a movie set that was altered, was that there would be no one traveling into Mexico with us as we approached the border in her vehicle, Welcome to Mexico sign in front of us. There were no cars in front of us and no cars in back of us. It was, again, almost like a private road situation. And now we were past the border area. We made our way to the factory, nondescript kind of area where other factories were. Again, not a lot of people out, not a lot of cars out. And we're about to have a face-to-face meeting with the owners of the factory. We weren't quite sure what we were going to walk into. Our rep got out of the car. We went to a security door. Were welcomed into the factory. There was a huge window out to one of the assembly area on the factory floor, so you could see people actually working. It was very legitimate, very much a hub of activity, and we were about to talk to the owners of the business. It was obvious that they were overwhelmed, but I do believe genuine, and you can't get that, I don't think, over email or over a phone call. It had to be in person. And so before we left, after we had a nice exchange about things getting ramped up again, I said, so what are you going to give us today? We don't want to go back empty-handed. Whatever you can give us, we'll take back with us. We had to try, because we had people counting on us, and even that small trickle was going to be an act of good faith to some of these important clients. So we left there, and our rep, she drove us up to the border crossing. We're got our backpack and our duffel bags there, and we got all these people looking at us And we're the two gringos that are getting out of this car, walking to a line, a line that had no one in it, just a U.S. Customs official. And I walked up first, and Josh was feet behind me, and I had my backpack and my duffel bag. And he asked me, "Are you American citizens?" "Yes." "See your passport?" "Yeah." "Do you have anything to declare? Like any product or merchandise you're bringing over?" And I said, "Oh, we have some face mask samples." But I had taken a letter from one of my hospital clients with me that just stated that they were so appreciative of what we were doing for them with respect to masks, and it was on their letterhead, and I had it in my backpack. So I said to the customs guy, "I've got a letter from one of the hospitals I'm working with, if you'd like to see it." And he goes, "No, it doesn't matter if you got a letter." And then he thought about what we were doing, and he just said, "Oh, just go ahead and go through. I don't want to see you here again trying to cross this place with any kind of merchandise, sample or otherwise, but go ahead and get out of here," essentially. Weird times, but as we walked away from that border checkpoint and realized that we had not only gone into Mexico, we had got out of Mexico, and we had got out of Mexico with product that we desperately needed and a commitment by those owners to give us what we needed to move forward as a business. It was almost as if we were floating. It was just one of those surreal feelings.
So with my dad going to Mexico, I was concerned. Obviously, he's my dad, and going across the border during a time like this was concerning. But I mean, I kind of don't put it past him. He's kind of that person. He's adventurous. But it was necessary for him to get the job done. And it was also very inspiring for me and the rest of our team that here's our CEO, our owner, going to this measure of this length to get the job done and make it all work for everybody that was involved. So yeah, there was some concerns for sure, and I was waiting for the call when he crossed the border to make sure everything was okay. But I'm glad he did it, and it made a huge impact on where we're at right now.
Once the supply from Mexico was straightened out, we were able to predict with greater certainty where our business was going to come from, which directions we were taking, and we knew we needed to beef up staff again. The nice thing was that allowed us to start bringing people back.
As one of the employees that was initially furloughed, to come back to work was very exciting for me. I know that it was hard times being away from here, and so when I was brought back, I was ready to jump headfirst into whatever task they assigned me.
Once we got inventory of the cloth face masks, our team had a purpose. They were focused. They were reaching out to the universities, they were reaching out to their business contacts, and they were sharing with them the really important message. We had inventory so that they could get their people back to work and get their students back to school. We also knew there was demand beyond that. We knew that consumers wanted that. So we put up the site. FaceMaskNow.org was the URL we chose. Prior to this, we were guerrilla marketing in everything that we had done, and we'd always been guerrilla marketing. But what we learned through selling disposable face masks was if we wanted to put things in people's hands, we needed something that would connect with them easily. So we started looking at URLs, and during that time, people had come in and everything surrounding a face mask had really been taken. We found FaceMasksNow.org because we knew people needed face masks and they needed them now. And it was a simple way to just communicate that message to people. If you want face masks now, we have them. A lot of them, when they came back, actually told us it was their experience with getting the face masks now that we'd actually lived up to our name was the reason why they came back to buy from us in the future. So we knew we were building the right type of connection with people by sticking with that. With our Shopify site seeing a lot of demand from the customers that were coming there through our referral networks, we decided to start working with a media agency to try some different channels. Now, mind you, we hadn't worked with a media agency before. All of our previous marketing had been done in-house. So this was just one more pivot for our team to adjust to the mindset of working through an agency to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. We put together a very straightforward television ad, and it was really fun. Well, we can show you that now.
Are you ready to get back to work at your job or business? Then you need to find a reliable source for protective masks for your coworkers and employees. At facemasksnow.org, we maintain a huge inventory of quality cloth masks at low prices and available now. Shipping within one business day after you place your order. Facemasksnow.org carries eco-friendly, washable, and reusable cloth masks in a variety of colors, and we offer great prices. Go to facemasksnow.org and buy cloth masks for as low as $4.99 each. Larger bulk pricing is also available. We've been in business selling apparel and promotional items for more than 41 years. So whether you need a few masks for your job or thousands of masks for your organization or business, we can help you. Our convenient online ordering makes it very easy. Show your commitment to protecting your community, your family, and your business. Don't delay. Go to facemasksnow.org to stock up on your supply of high-quality cloth face masks.
When those ads aired, we actually started seeing a lot more success. We came back from one weekend with a glut of orders that kept our team moving very fast that day to make sure we got everything out, because again, that was our commitment. We were going to get things out the door to people so that they were in their hands, and we didn't want anyone to have to wait longer for masks than they needed to. So through the process, we've learned a lot in diving into the analytics about what are the consumers looking for and how can we best reach them and communicate this message to them. And every day, every step of the way, our message continues to evolve, and we continue as a team to shift how we speak to the consumers.
This brings me to the current day, and we're getting close to the end of the video. It's certainly not the end of our journey. I hope what we can leave you with is a roadmap for your own journey and to have you thinking about your own evolution. I also want to thank the incredible crew, the incredible team I have at Guerrilla Marketing. Without their efforts and without their resolve to succeed, we wouldn't be here today.
When I think about what we've done over the past, I don't know, right now it seems like a lifetime, I'm super proud of the team. They pivoted in a way that I don't think any of them knew they could when this started. And we worked together. It was just a really neat experience to be part of.
I think our ability to pivot and the unwavering commitment of our leadership team was key to our ability to succeed during this time. We were able to overcome anything that we were hit with. And as I said in the basketball analogy before, it was important that we remembered what our strengths were. Keep that pivot foot planted in what you know and probe for the opportunities that are always there. With the lessons we've tried to illustrate throughout this video, I've put together 5 key points that I think are important to remember in business and in life. I think they're equally applicable. Number 1, and I've said it before, failure isn't an option. You have to have a resolve to succeed. Number 2, have a clear game plan. Communicate that game plan. Make sure everybody understands it. You're going to have some swerves along the way, but everybody needs to know where you're headed. Number 3, expect overtime. This isn't a normal game. You're going to work harder and you're going to work longer than you ever have before. And yes, it could take a toll on your spouse, your loved ones, your friends. Number 4, be flexible. You're going to play a multitude of roles during this game. You may, as the CEO of your company, need to drive a vehicle. You may need to pack a box, bring humility to the table, and know that there's going to be multiple roles. And number 5, and I think probably the most important, is everybody plays. This is a team effort. You've seen on a lot of locker rooms throughout sports, TEAM, the acronym stands for Together Everyone Achieves More. That couldn't be more true. Everybody plays their part. Make sure you celebrate that and get everybody in the game. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Maybe 2020 was meant to be so uncomfortable and so dramatic that it forced us to look at ourselves and our businesses differently and to continue to evolve and learn something new. But you can succeed and you will succeed. I want to thank you for watching this video and I want to wish all of you good luck. Oh, I almost forgot. There is a pivot number 4, and we're actually working on pivot number 5. Maybe you can guess what number 4 is.